to you and your kin. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Now bring us some figgy pudding, now bring us some figgy pudding, now bring us some figgy pudding, and bring some out here. Good tidings we bring to you and your kin. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We wish you a Merry Christmas, we wish you a Merry Christmas, we wish you a Merry Christmas.
I'm with you now! You know very well Mr. Scrooge doesn't buy carolers. Quickly, I'm thinking of the mood. Best you bring joy elsewhere than have it leashed from you here.
Was that truly necessary? Mr. Scrooge wouldn't have known.
Trust, dear, Mr. Scrooge always knows. Late on the washing, he knows. Burn the toast once, he knows. You'll catch on quickly. It's best to keep your wits about you.
Couldn't you spare a bit of coal for the rest of the estate? My hands are cold.
I'm afraid not. If Mr. Cratchit must warm himself by candlelight up in the study, the rest of us can do with a little bit of chill out here. The washing up helps a bit.
Forgive me, but I'm still a bit confused. So far, I've met the clerk.
Mr. Cratchit?
Yes, Mr. Cratchit, and yourself, and Mr. Scrooge, of course, but I have yet to meet Mr. Marley.
Mr. Marley?
Oh, yes, the sign above the door reads the firm of Scrooge and Marley. Has he gone home for Christmas, perhaps?
Marley is dead to begin with. There is no doubt whatsoever about that. The register of his burial was signed by the clergyman, the clerk, the undertaker, the chief mourner, why even Mr. Scrooge himself. And we all know Mr. Scrooge's name is good to anything he puts his hand to. So yes, my dear, old Marley is in fact as dead as a doornail. Mind, I don't mean to say that I know what is particularly dead about a doornail. I might have been inclined to regard a coffin nail as the deadest piece of iron in the trade, but the wisdom of the ancestors is in the simile, and my unhallowed hand shall not disturb it. Regardless, I can say with certainty that Marley is as dead as a doornail.
Not recently, though, is it? Mr. Scrooge knew that he died then?
Of course he did. How could it be otherwise? Well, he and Marley were partners for, I don't know how many years. Mr. Scrooge was his sole executor, his sole administrator, his sole assign, his sole friend, and his sole mourner. And even Mr. Scrooge was not so dreadfully cut up with news of the old man's passing. Lord bless him, that sour wretch. But, being an excellent man of business, he leveraged his grief with a bargain on the day of the funeral and walked away that much richer. Oh, when the mention of Marley's funeral brings me back to the point on which I started from.
Which is?
That Marley is dead. This must be distinctly understood, or nothing can come of the tale I am going to relate. Why, if we are not perfectly convinced that Hamlet's father died before the play began, there would be nothing remarkable in the events to follow.
Still, you never painted out old Marley's name?
Never. Not yet, anyways. There it lies years afterwards above the door, the firm of Scrooge and Marley. Sometimes newcomers to the business, such as yourself, call Mr. Scrooge Scrooge and sometimes Marley, but he answers to both names. It's all the same to him.
I'm quite certain I made the same mistake when I first started here. Strange.
What's that?
Well, he never did correct me.
No, not when it comes to the business of names. He could not be bothered. But the business of business itself, well, I wouldn't dare blunder in his company. He's a cold-tided hand, fist at the grindstone, that Mr. Scrooge. Squeezing, grasping, wrenching, scraping, clutching. Clutching, yes. Covetous sinner, hard and sharp as flint, secret and self-contained.
Solitary as an oyster, to be sure.
Truly, have you noticed? That man is so cold-hearted, his features simply froze, nipping at his nose and cheekbones, his eyes red and lips a sickly blue, walking about all stiff-like. It's a shame, really.
Well, he does tend to speak in an icy tone.
Icy. Dear girl, our frosty rhyme rests on his forehead and chin. Mind, I don't mean to speak cruel. Better here with him than out in those workhouses, if only by a little. And Lord knows we need to eat. Ready?
I suppose. But what of your story?
Oh, I'll tell along the way. Come, best we dress the beds before Mr. Scrooge retires for the evening.